Trudeau speaks tough against China's retaliation. Experts guess Beijing won't dare react strongly. Chinese regime's foreign minister pledges to defend its firm against EU sanctions. Japan equips Miyako Patriot missiles on Miyako Island near Taiwan. Chinese investment bank CICC ceases Capvision service.
On May 9th, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canada would not be intimidated by China's regime. Trudeau's statement comes after China's regime has just taken action to expel a Canadian diplomat on retaliation for Ottawa's expulsion of Chinese diplomat Zhao Wei on May 8th over allegations related to foreign interference. According to Reuters, sharing with media in Ottawa, Trudeau said, "We understand there is retaliation, but we will not be intimidated. We will continue to do everything necessary to keep Canadians protected from foreign interference. There have been some concerns that the action to expel the Chinese Communist Party's diplomat will cause China to suffer economic consequences because of Beijing's retaliation. China is currently Canada's second biggest trading partner. Last year, the amount of Canadian goods exported to China increased by 16%, which includes many food items. However, Tyler McCann, managing director of the Canadian Agri-Food Policy Institute, believes that Beijing may refrain from retaliating against Canada boldly. McCann said, "It seems the Chinese government is more sensitive about food security than they were years ago, and that might mitigate the risk. Wheat and vegetable oil supplies are scarce globally due to the Ukraine war. This may make China's regime reluctant to restrict Canadian wheat and canola imports." Guy St. Jacques, a former Canadian ambassador to China, said that he doesn't think Beijing will retaliate against Canada with economic sanctions because it is trying to reassure international investors that they can continue to operate in China after CCP's zero-COVID policy based on lockdowns is lifted. The Chinese regime's foreign minister Qin Gang has criticized EU proposals to impose sanctions on Chinese firms for supporting Russia's war machine, as he pledged to defend its companies. Qin commented while he was in Berlin to meet his German counterpart Annalena Baerbock to prepare for the next month's joint German-Chinese government consultations. According to the Financial Times, the EU accused 7 Chinese firms of selling equipment used in Russian weapons in the conflict. As a result, the bloc has introduced a new set of sanctions, and EU member states will discuss the matter this week. Qin claimed China did not deliver any weapons, saying there is a normal exchange and cooperation between Chinese and Russian companies. This must not be disrupted. We are against states introducing extraterritorial or one-sided sanctions on China or any other country according to their own domestic laws. Qin added, "And if that were to happen, we would react strictly and firmly. We will defend the legitimate interests of our country and our companies." Baerbock did not comment on the sanctioned companies, but she said the EU sanctions on Russia are not subverted in indirect ways. That is not aimed against any specific country, but against these sanctioned goods. She added, "We expect from all countries, including China, that they exert influence on their companies with this in mind." 2 mainland China-based companies, 3HC Semiconductors and Kingpie Technology, and 2 Hong Kong-based firms, Sino Electronics and Sigma Technology, are on the U.S. sanction list. These firms are accused of providing Russia with microelectronics and U.S. origin items. While most countries denounce Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, the Chinese Communist regime refused to condemn Russia. Czech President Petr Pavel last month warned that the Chinese regime wants a prolonged Russia-Ukraine war as it benefits from the conflict. Matsuno Hirokazu, Japan's chief cabinet secretary, announced on May 8th that Japan Air Self-Defense Forces surface-to-air guided PAC-3 missiles would be installed on Miyako Island. Taiwan News cited Matsuno saying, "We are building an appropriate posture." He added, "We will do everything possible to ensure the peace and security for our country." Matsuno said the deployment of Patriot missiles PAC-3 is aimed at countering the potential threat to North Korea's long-range ballistic missiles. However, Miyako is located 1,459 kilometers or 906 miles from North Korea's southernmost city of Kaesong. Meanwhile, it is only 362 kilometers or 225 miles from Yilan County in northeast Taiwan. Therefore, Japan's decision to deploy missiles on Miyako leads observers to believe that Tokyo always had a plan to protect itself and is ready to support Taiwan against the threat of China's regime. According to Taiwan News, Japan's deploying PAC-3 missiles on Miyako raises questions as to whether the deployment could be designed to intercept Chinese missiles. One of China's largest investment banks has turned its back on New York-based consulting firm Capvision, whose Chinese offices were recently raided on suspicion of spying. Reuters reported on May 9th that CICC Capital, a unit of China International Capital Corp., said it prohibits all its teams from working with Capvision except for calls and inquiries related to due diligence. The directive came out of a memo issued on May 9th stating that it would take effect immediately. The report claimed that sources with direct knowledge of the matter had confirmed the memo's authenticity. The people who requested anonymity as they were not permitted to speak to the media said CICC Capital's investment teams also must not use Capvision's expert calls or inquiries. While shunning Capvision, two sources said that CICC Capital is still open to partnering with other consulting firms. The backturning came soon after the Chinese Communist Party announced that it had recently searched the offices of the American firm in a counter-espionage probe. Under the CCP's leadership, this clause tends to have vague definitions and can ensnare almost anyone. Capvision is known for performing market intelligence research and connecting clients to experts. The Wall Street Journal on May 7th disclosed from sources that Chinese officials have been particularly alarmed as U.S. think tanks were releasing studies on sensitive military topics in China. What disturbed them was that the articles were based on public information, which prompted an urgent revamp of foreign access to databases in the country.